Welcome to Scientific Death.
In 1979, a maintenance crew descended into a sealed underground electrical transformer vault to perform a routine overhaul on some heavy switchgear. To protect this infrastructure, the vault was wired with an automated fire suppression system, massive carbon dioxide cylinders designed to flood the room. Each steel tank was packed with liquid CO2, pressurized to 850 psi. That is an enormous amount of kinetic energy sitting silently. The crew was sharing a cramped, unventilated basement with a thermodynamic payload built entirely to save machines, without any biological safeguards for humans. While drilling into an upper conduit rack, a technician's bit accidentally clipped a small pneumatic pilot line. Air burst out, creating a sudden, localized pressure spike in the tubing. That spike was all it took. The system registered the pressure change as a fire signal, bypassing any manual checks. It instantly triggered the master control cylinder, tearing open the main directional valves. The 1979 engineering design completely lacked friction. There was no manual override, no delay, and no second check. A single slipped drill bit commanded total, unstoppable deployment. The moment those valves snapped open, over 2 tons of liquid carbon dioxide blasted through the sealing nozzles directly into the sealed vault. This animation illustrates what physicists call Joule-Thomson expansion. When a liquid is stored under 850 psi and suddenly released into standard room pressure, it forcefully expands. The liquid CO2 flash boils. It tears itself apart into a dense mixture of freezing gas and solid dry ice snow. In less than 5 seconds, that liquid expands 450 times its original volume. This violent phase change requires energy, which it steals as heat from the room. The ambient temperature inside the vault instantly dropped below -40 degrees Celsius, filling the space with a blinding, zero-visibility fog. Looking at this cross-section of the vault, we see gas stratification in action. Because carbon dioxide is roughly 1.5 times heavier than normal air, it rapidly pools at the floor and builds upward, physically pushing the lighter atmospheric air out of the room. It took exactly 15 seconds. The dense CO2 displaced so much atmospheric air that the ambient oxygen concentration plummeted from a normal 20.9% down to less than 3%. Inert gases like nitrogen can cause a person to quietly pass out. Carbon dioxide does not. High concentrations trigger acute toxic hypercapnia, initiating a violent physiological panic response. This diagram shows the blood chemistry reaction. As the workers inhaled, the high-density CO2 reacted instantly with water in their bloodstream to form carbonic acid. This drove their blood pH into a severe acidic plunge. The human brainstem monitors blood acidity to regulate breathing. When it registers a sudden acidic spike, it overrides conscious control, forcing the lungs to gasp uncontrollably for air that simply isn't there. Breathing air with more than 10% carbon dioxide forces the blood vessels in the brain to rapidly dilate. Within 10 seconds, this massive swelling causes blinding headaches and extreme spatial disorientation. Here we see the fatal tipping point, acute diffusion reversal. Because the vault's ambient CO2 levels exceeded 30%, the gas pressure gradient in the lungs entirely inverted. Instead of expelling waste, the blood actually absorbed more carbon dioxide while shedding its residual oxygen back into the lungs. Under these inverted conditions, arterial oxygen levels dropped below brain survival thresholds in under 30 seconds. The crew suffered mass fainting, followed by irreversible brainstem damage and cardiac arrest. This accident exposed a massive vulnerability in industrial engineering. Systems had been perfectly calibrated to protect infrastructure, but completely overlooked human survivability. The 1979 incident acted as a forcing function, driving strict international revisions to fire safety codes and rapidly modernizing standards like NFPA 12. The first fix was mechanical. High-pressure total flooding systems are now legally required to feature physical lockout-tagout directional valves. Before anyone enters an enclosure, these heavy manual valves must be locked shut, physically blocking the gas flow. The second fix was chronological. Engineers integrated automated pneumatic delay timers into the firing mechanisms, physically guaranteeing a 30 to 60-second evacuation window between activation and discharge. To ensure that window is used, those delays are directly hardwired to high-decibel siren alarms and strobe lights. By engineering friction back into the sequence, requiring physical locks and inescapable time delays, safety regulators ensured that a single knocked pipe could never instantly trap a crew again. The final adjustment was biological. The industrial sector aggressively shifted away from using total flooding carbon dioxide in normally occupied spaces. It was replaced with synthetic clean agents, like FM200 or specialized inert gas mixtures. These alternatives are designed to chemically suppress a fire while maintaining an oxygen concentration high enough to keep humans alive. Today, maintenance crews often view lengthy lockout procedures and ear-piercing pre-discharge alarms as tedious bureaucratic friction that slows down a job. But those exact points of friction exist because previous generations worked without them. True engineering success isn't measured by how fast a system deploys, but by its capacity to fail safely.
Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to give it a giant thumbs up and hit that big subscribe button. Be sure to turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. See you in the next one.